Idiot Radio, taking it to the edge and back.
Everybody, thanks for listening to the Triple B Experience. I'm your host, Bad Bubba Brewer. I just want to give you guys a little bit of insight about me, what makes me tick, what really gets me going, and what cools my jets when need be. Hey, I love professional wrestling. I wrestled for 17 years. And also, I'm a huge Steeler fan, and I've collected comic books all my life. So I'm going to talk about the stuff that I want to talk about. True experiences that are entertaining, and we recant them stories to you, the masses out there in podcast land. Join me on this crazy journey called the Triple B Experience. Well, everybody, this is my first show. This is Bad Bubba Brewer, and this is the Triple B Experience. So anyway, this is my first show, all by my lonesome. And my first topic that I think I'm going to talk about is something that is very near and dear to me. It is my love for professional wrestling. But I also have other loves too. Steelers, comic books, movies, having a good time, great music, good friends, great life in general. But it was pro wrestling that gave me something that I don't know what I would do without. And it all stems back into the younger days. You know, everybody had the younger days when they were growing up, looking for something to do. And for me, it was a Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock. And I just happened to get, going through the TV channels. Because back in the early 80s, ladies and gentlemen, there wasn't a lot of TV channels on a rabbit ear kind of TV. So, in Marion Center, Pennsylvania, by God. So, Saturday at 4 o'clock on channel 22 WPTT was my first experience watching professional wrestling. And at that time, it was the WWF. They were larger than life. They were something that I've never seen before. And you're talking to a guy that was a huge Star Wars fanatic and thought Darth Vader was, the biggest thing in the world. Okay, so anyway, my first inclinations of watching wrestling, I saw a man, by the name of Hulk Hogan. So, he's bigger than life. And his name was Hulk Hogan. So you couldn't go wrong. And me being, of course, a big, huge Hulk fanatic, that is one of my biggest collections of my comic books, is the Hulk series. And, I've collected Hulk comic books since I was a kid. I have a great collection. I'm not gonna bat an eye about that. I'm not gonna downplay it. But anyway, when you're young and you see people on TV that influences the situation, I also saw a man by the name of Rowdy Roddy Piper. And when I saw Piper's Pit, when I saw it live with him and Jimmy Superfly Snuka, I was hooked. So I went to watch it all the time, and in my house, my dad hated wrestling. Hated it. Couldn't stand it. So I had to watch it wherever I could. I would watch it at my neighbor's house. I would grab the magazines like every person did. It was growing up. Buy PWI magazines, The Wrestler, all that stuff. And I would buy it down at the local store called Andy's Market on 119. They had them all there. And every time I go down with my mom, I would go pick up a Wrestle magazine. And God bless her for letting me put it in the shopping cart. And she paid for it because, at that time I didn't have a job because I was young. So, so that, and then my neighbor Tippy Roofner took me to my first wrestling show ever. I saw Hulk Hogan wrestle Don the Morocco. I saw Ricky Steamboat. I bought a Hulkster headband. And it was awesome. And he also took me to see the only time I believe the NWA was at the Civic Arena. I saw Dusty Rhodes against Ric Flair. I saw Arn and Tully and the Rock and Roll Express. And then also on Channel 53, they had the Mid-Atlantic stuff, which was on Saturday mornings, and I was engulfed with that. So let's forward a little bit to, I don't know, in my teen years, my late 18, 19, 20 years old, when I used to go out to the Ox Hill Fair and go mud wrestle and thinking I was king shit. Doing stuff off the hay bales and, being the bad guy, the local bad guy, having everybody boo and scream. And I was just living life and just doing what I had to do with my partner, Jeff Stump, and we just destroyed everybody. And $125 was the purse, and that's what we won. And, hey, when you're 20 years old and $125, believe me, it bought you a lot of Sheetz hot dogs, and it bought you some beer. I ain't gonna lie, So I've done that for a couple times, and I was like, maybe I should try to get into this. So I got, I didn't know how to do it, so I saw this thing at in the local Indiana Gazette for a show called United States Championship Wrestling. Oh my God. Yes, that's right. United States Championship Wrestling. So they had a show on a Saturday. So I was like, oh, okay. I was probably 26. Rolled up my sleeves, and I went in. I couldn't go to the show because I had to work because I was bartending at the Rose Inn at the time. And I couldn't take off on short notice. And I didn't know any of the names. I didn't know any of it. But I walked in, and my sleeves were rolled up, and I was like, I want to become a wrestler. Because I got this book through PWI years ago that, unless you were related to somebody in wrestling or you were an ex-NFL football player, you couldn't get in. So I took a chance, and I walked up, and I talked to a man called, Sal Conte. So Sal Conte told me, sure, you could become a wrestler. It's going to cost you money, which I understood that. But I was like, So even in my mid-20s, I was still naive about the wrestling business. So anyway, first off, I went to Green Tree in Pittsburgh and met him at the Olive Garden. We talked about some stuff, and he had a contract. And my dad's like, don't go signing anything, Jay. Don't sign nothing. Well, what did I do, people? I signed a contract, and I had $500 down. I gave him $500 right there, ready to rock and roll. And I had to pay, my total initiation tuition was $1,500. And I had to rent and pay that. I think I had a 2 to 3 months grace period. Then I had to pay it all off. So I had to go train in a garage in Bridgeville, Pennsylvania. So I would bartend at the Rose. I would close the bar. Sometimes I would drive my car, sleep in my car, and then I would train in this garage for about 6 hours, take a shower, and then go back to work. I did that for 6 months. 6 months. And realistically, I didn't learn a damn thing because Sal Conte never got in the ring. Never got in the ring to show us anything, but took everybody's money. So there's an ins and outs, the good and bad of pro wrestling, independent wrestling. I met a man by the name of Frank Morano, who wrestled as Fang. That was my first wrestling person that I ever met. I met Aaron Lester when he was doing local cable in Pittsburgh, and he did an interview there at the facility. And I think I never seen the interview. But I remember what I said something about I am not Vern Gagne and I can't train anybody. We weren't getting trained, and there was 15 guys with $1,500. So times that. So good old Sal Conte, I guess, in Washington, got a lovely pizza place, and took everybody's money and, promised a lot of, delusions of grandeur, if you will, which I didn't know. I had no clue. So anyway, I wrestled. My first match was with a partner named Sid, and we were called the Silencers. We had a black outfits, and I got my stuff from the Military Depot, Tim Javicki in Home, PA. God bless them. They have good, assault. They have weapons, guns, military stuff, and they hooked me up. And it was a tag team. We tagged up against the guys called Phi Beta Kappa, guys in their mid-20s also, and we were in the middle of the card, and I brought 50 people from Indiana at Ernest and Rose Inn. 50 people met me at the Rose Inn and followed me down there on a Sunday afternoon, which I could not fucking believe. I couldn't believe that, and it's awesome and it's cool. It's bad enough you can't even get 5 people to come see you. I got my first show. I got 50 people 2.5 hours away to come on a Sunday afternoon to come see me. So God bless America. And we were on the middle of the card, and our match went way too long, and it was way too much. And they had a guy, and my first run-in with a man called Blade. Blade was on the show. A guy called the Iron Warrior. And this other guy called Guido Falcone. So I was getting a little bit of meeting some other people in the industry, the local Pittsburgh stuff. So I just, taken an opportunity, and, we went over on my first tag team match. We were victorious. I tried a drop kick, and I think it hit the guy in the stomach. I didn't even get high enough. My partner Sid was he was 6'6", over 6'6", but you couldn't trust him as far as you could throw him, and he was a conniving bastard. So, and he was never ever. He got out of the business very, very quickly, and you can't lie to people, and that's what he did, and that's not cool. So we wrestled as a tag team for a couple months in United States Championship Wrestling. They were doing local TV on Channel 22, which was, local, and my grandmother, God bless her soul, went out and bought a brand new TV so she could watch her grandson wrestle, which I thought that was cool. But she never did, and it never happened. The one match that I did wrestle, I wrestled against a guy called Malice. The cameras were all there. The place was packed in a Jefferson High School or Robert Kennedy High School or whatever, and they shut the cameras off. So I was like, oh my God, what the hell? So I was bummed out because I used to come out in a Greg Lloyd jersey, so I'm getting a pop, as they say, and I felt it was like, whatever. I had a bad feeling about Mr. Sal Conte. He wasn't honest. So I asked him, what could I do and what can I, whatever, and he told me that, you get some more experience, you'll get a little better, and this and that, and he was just stringing me along. So, I listened to him. I watched a Don Morocco Ricky Steamboat match in his pizza shop, and that was the only thing he did because every time he showed up, he would have some lasagna and chocolate milk. If anybody knows Sal Conte, I think he's not a good character. But that's all he did. Never once got in the ring. Never once showed anybody any moves. But he took everybody's money, and he just didn't didn't treat people with respect. You know, and that sucks. That truly does suck. And that was my first experience of getting into wrestling and stuff like that. And it had to be Sal Conte. The Triple B Experience.
We'll return after these messages.
Battaglia Home Inspections, the only place you need to go for pre-purchase, pre-list, or general home inspections. Battaglia Home Inspections is available to discuss how our services can meet your needs. Our impartial and experienced inspectors can help you make an educated real estate investment. Pennsylvania State Certified Real Estate Inspectors, servicing Beaver County, Butler County, and surrounding areas. For more information, go to BattagliaHomeInspections.com or give them a call at 724-987-3770. Vapor Connection in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Premier vaping lounge and proprietor of vaping supplies. We carry everything from mods and accessories to the widest selection of e-liquids in Pittsburgh. Visit our shop in Blawnox and sample e-juice from America's best suppliers. Vapor Connection, Pittsburgh's premier vapor and shop lounge. Vape easy at the Vapor Connection. For more information, go to VaporConnectionLLC.com.
You're listening to Idiot Radio, taking it to the edge and back.
For all your heating and cooling needs, service, and installation, contact our friends at Complete Comfort Heating and Air Conditioning, 412-513-3001. Doesn't your family deserve complete comfort?
Well, besides being in the wrestling business and thinking that I was all that and a bag of chips, the only shining point of my United States Championship interaction was in Pittsburgh. We wrestled in a show in a high school in Pittsburgh, and there was only 10 wrestlers on the card. So me and Sid had to be split against the Phi Beta Kappa guys in a singles match that turned into a tag match. So they had 3 matches that we were in on that card. And the only good bright spot of that was a man sitting at ringside who was working for Sal Conte at the time, and that was the living legend Bruno Samartino. And Mr. Bruno Samartino was sitting there watching everybody's matches and stuff like that. So that was a nervous high point in my short career because I was wrestling in front of Bruno Samartino, and I'm like, oh my God, oh wow. It was just overwhelming. And a lot of you guys probably would understand that because if the guys that are in the business that are listening to this knows, if you wrestle in front of somebody like that statue, especially Bruno, you probably got a little butterflies in your stomach. And if people that don't, and it's not in the business that's listening to the podcast here, it's an experience. And meeting people of that high magnitude, in your life. And wrestling has given me numerous opportunities to meet a lot of people in the wrestling business. But anyway, a week after that, me and Sid was in the St. John's Arena in Ohio. It was a biggest place I've ever wrestled in early in my career. And it wasn't as busy it wasn't packed, but it was a big arena. And we wrestled Phi Beta Kappa because we were always working those guys when we worked in United States Championship Wrestling. So, well, we wrestled them, and I believe we lost. So, we're getting getting dressed and everything like that. And Dominic DiNucci was there also. And sometimes I do crazy stuff and going up to people and just, hi, whatever. You know what I mean? That's just how I am. My friends say I always have to be the center of attention, or I'm an attention whore, or whatever. Opportunities come when opportunities are there, and you have to take them. And I take chances, and I like to seize the opportunity. So in the locker room was Bruno Samartino. So I went over to Bruno, and this is what gave me encouragement in my entire career. The day that I met him and the stuff that he said to me. I go, excuse me, Mr. Samartino, can I talk to you? And this is what he said. He's like, you call me Bruno. I was like, okay, sir. I said, you were at the show last week and you saw me wrestle this week. Do I have what it takes to be successful in this business? And he said, you need a lot of work, but you'll get a lot of work if you put your mind to it. And if you get a lot more matches under your belt, you can be good in this business. Now, if Bruno Samartino told me that I sucked, first off, I wouldn't be doing this podcast, talking about wrestling and other stuff. I wouldn't be doing anything. I wouldn't have wrestled for 17 years. I wouldn't have done anything, because when Bruno Samartino tells you something, I think, by God, you would actually listen. And he gave me encouragement to a guy that was so green in the business. You know what I mean? It was something that I, and he just passed recently and stuff, and I still remember that to this day, what he told me and how he acted towards me. And he didn't have to say that, he didn't have to give encouragement to a guy from, Marion Center, Indiana County, who, only had about maybe 8 or 10 matches under his belt and didn't know a wrist lock from a wristwatch. You know what I mean? So, but he goes, he gave me that encouragement to actually keep going on. So I appreciate that, and I will never, ever, ever forget that. But anyway, my lovely journey at United States Championship Wrestling came to pass. It wasn't going the way I wanted it to go. The words of Bruno still encouraged and rang in my ear, but I wasn't getting treated, and I didn't like that, and I don't like to be lied to, and that's what it was. So I didn't do anything for a while, and then I went to, 2 weeks into the business and stuff like that, I went to an ECW event in downtown Indiana at the S&T Ice Arena, ECW in its heyday. You know what I mean? So I thought I was king shit, 2 weeks into the business and this and that. And, I was causing controversy. I was ringside, and I got into it with Bubba and Devon, the Dudley Boys at the time. And, and I had a Roddy Piper Icon shirt, and I thought I was all that. And I wasn't all that. And I was partying all day at the Rose Inn. So it was a long day. But I met a gentleman who, I guess in passing, because he said I was a cocky prick because, I was into business, I met Mr. Chris Lash, so I met him in the lobby with his stepson, Robert Hornack. And meeting Robert was one of the greatest things in my life in the wrestling business. That'll be future stories of him. But anyway, I got into, talking, and then I believe I gave him his number or whatever. My mind's a little fuzzy on some parts, but he was running this company called the Allied Powers Wrestling Federation, based in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. So I was like, wow, okay, Punxsutawney, 20 minutes from my house, working at the Rose Inn, and he got with me, and I said, yeah, sure, I'll join the roster. I was the only local guy at that time that was working for Mr. Lash in the Allied Powers Wrestling Federation. So I was trying to help him out, because that's what a good person does. I, got posters, and I got tickets. I was at the Rose Inn bartending, and I was selling tickets at the bar. I sold almost 300 tickets alone. 300 tickets to come see me wrestle, which I thought I thought 50 going to Washington, PA to see my first match was cool, but almost selling 300 was even way cooler. And I was like, wow. And I'm sure when you're handing a promoter a big wad of ticket cash sales, and, he's probably like, oh, wow. And, I'm still green, in the business, So I, talked to my owner, my good buddy at the, Steve Fry was my boss. And, to, get, 8x10s. And Steve's like, Bubba, just, here's some money. Go, don't charge, and just give free autographs to the people at this show. He goes, that'll mean more. Because I did talk to Steve before, and Steve gave me encouragement to get into the wrestling business, because he's like, if you don't do it, Bubba, and you're always going to wish, what if? What if you didn't take the chance and go wrestle and do all this stuff that you always wanted to do? It's always going to be what if. You might not make anything out of it, but at least you tried and did what you needed to do. So for Steve, I appreciate that, and Steve's a good guy, and his brother Joe, they owned the Rose Inn for many, many years, and there was some stories here on the Triple B experience about some outdoor shows at the Rose Inn, as we incorporate, everything, in this podcast experience and try to give you guys the stories from my eyes and my viewpoints. But anyway, get back to Steve's like, I got some 8x10s. I went to Javicki Military Depot and took some action shots with me and camo and glasses and holding, AK-47s and assault weapons and looking badassery, doing promo pics because everybody thought that was cool and I thought that was cool, and you know what I mean, and and stuff like that. So I got all the pictures done, ready to go, and this and that, and now this is going to be the first APWF show. It was the weekend of fishing. It was a Sunday. So, and I'm surprised a lot of people, like I said, almost 300 tickets. Okay. And the biggest name on the card was Axel Rotten. Also, my first experiences with a guy from Cleveland. Crazy man from Cleveland. Gmo. And also the Sheik. Sheiky. Hassan. He was in the first show too. Because they had some guys from a Cleveland Federation come out. You know what I mean? And they had... Maryland, they had Maryland Championship Wrestling guys on the show. I didn't know any of these guys because I wasn't fully aware of a lot of independent names at that time. I'm not going to lie. I was looking, the big names, you know what I mean? And ECW at that time was in its heyday, and Axel Rotten was there, and stuff like that and stuff. And I mean, it was... so I sold tickets at the Rose Inn, and I kept promoting and talking and telling people about it, and and the opportunity was that's the closest that I'd ever thought I was going to ever wrestle, and everybody showed up, and it was at the Punxsutawney Community Center in downtown Punxsutawney. If anybody knows where Punxsutawney is, they are famous for a groundhog. And they were also famous at that time for Allied Powers Wrestling Federation. That federation was very, very good in the early days in Punxsutawney. So, yep, it was a Sunday. It was a Sunday afternoon. That match was, and it was packed. I mean, there was people that had Bubba bumper stickers and Bubba pins and Bubba everything, signs, and my mother was sitting up in the stands by herself, just, grimacing with fear, not knowing what her kid's gonna be doing. I had a lot of friends there, and I appreciate that. Burns was there, going crazy. Just everybody that I know, that I was friends with, that I hung out with at that time was there, and I appreciate that. And it's on videos and stuff like that. I mean, the place was, I blew the roof off of that place when they announced my name coming out, and I come out to Metallica Seek and Destroy, and I come out in a Greg Lloyd jersey because I'm a huge Steeler fan, by God, and, you know, I was a season ticket holder at that time, and, you know, so, yeah. And I just, you know, walking through that crowd and seeing all those people cheer for me, that is a better drug than you possibly can imagine, ladies and gentlemen. It was something. It was something like I never seen before in my entire life. You know, but I just, you know, truly want to thank everybody, you know, that came that day. And I just want to thank everybody that's watched me over the years, because they paid their hard-earned money to see me entertain them. And hopefully I was entertaining for them to, you know, come back, and they appreciate what I did in the ring and what I did out of the ring. You know what I mean? So that's how, you know, that was my my first experience working close to home. And it was quite an experience that day. Quite an experience. The Triple B Experience.
We'll return after these messages.
For all your heating and cooling needs, service, and installation, contact our friends at Complete Comfort Heating and Air Conditioning. 412-513-3001. Doesn't your family deserve complete comfort?
Battaglia Home Inspections, the only place you need to go for pre-purchase, pre-list, or general home inspections. Battaglia Home Inspections is available to discuss how our services can meet your needs. Our impartial and experienced inspectors can help you make an educated real estate investment. Pennsylvania State Certified Real Estate Inspectors, servicing Beaver County, Butler County, and surrounding areas. For more information, go to BattagliaHomeInspections.com or give them a call at 724-987-3770.
You're listening to Idiot Radio, taking it to the edge and back.
Vapor Connection in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Premier vaping lounge and proprietor of vaping supplies. We carry everything from mods and accessories to the widest selection of e-liquids in Pittsburgh. Visit our shop in Blawnox and sample e-juice from America's best suppliers. Vapor Connection, Pittsburgh's premier vapor and shop lounge. Vape easy at the Vapor Connection. For more information, go to vaporconnectionllc.com.
Looking for a creative idea for meetings, business lunches, and special events? Call Spiels on Wheels, food truck and catering, and take the stress away. For more information, call them at 724-244-9881 or on Facebook at facebook.com/spielson.wheels.
Well, I wasn't in the main event because they did a title tournament for the first ever crowning of the APWF title, heavyweight title. That was the only title they had at the time. I was in a 4-corner match. Myself, Frank Morano, a bruiser from MCW, and another wrestler by the name of Brian, who was friends with Frank at the time. He trained with us down in United States Championship Wrestling. So, actually, yeah, Frank was went from United States Championship Wrestling to the APWF also, just like me. So, that match, 4-corner match, I had no damn clue. I didn't do anything but a hip toss that whole match, I believe. I was not... I must have been overwhelmed with emotion, and I wasn't on my right ways of thinking straight or something, because I would think I was so pumped up because I was wrestling in front of my hometown, and I wasn't my best performance. I'm my worst critic anyway, so at least I can say that I'm not that good. Now, when someone else says I'm not that good, well, then I kind of get a little bent out of shape. But, I wasn't that good in this match. And that's all I did was a hip toss. The ending of the match had the Sheikh Abdul Hassan come out and throw powder in my eyes. And I won by disqualification, I believe. The place went crazy. Wasn't a good match. The main event was Axel Rotten winning the heavyweight title. Axel Rotten was the first APWF heavyweight champion. And what he did was he invited everybody into the ring. And all these fans and kids and stuff got in the ring. And the ring broke on the first APWF show. I was like, holy crap. And I'm sure Lash was just going fucking bonkers because he couldn't believe what just happened. Because he probably figured all that money he got in ticket sales, now he's got to go pay for a ring. But I will say that first show, I know it was sold out. There had to be over 800 or 900 people there at that show. It was packed. The floor was packed. The whole community building in a whole was packed. And I think I can ask Princess Jade, because Princess Jade was there at the time, not as the princess, but I think she can attest that how packed it was. I think she was doing ticket sales at that time, because I think Robert was also doing ring crew and stuff like that. Robert was the MacGyver of the company, even though he was that young. He was a jack of all trades and a master of everything he'd ever done. So, but that was the first APWF show. It was a successful show. My wrestling skills were not successful when they weren't that good. But I kept on the roster due to probably being a local person and having the local draw where people would come and see me. So, I wrestled, he had a couple shows. He had another show at the Punxsutawney Armory. I wrestled Shane Shadows in, he was under a mask. I gave him a cold stone stunner. Gave him a stunner off the garage doors, which they weren't happy about that. But I was, whatever the promoter told me, that's what I did. So, and that's what I did. And I wrestled in front of my grandfather that day. God bless his soul. My grandfather would come to the shows and stuff like that, and he would support me. And it was always great to have family supporting you when you're trying to do something. And also, one of the next shows I did in APWF that I can recall is my first ever steel cage match. It was against the wise guy Jimmy Cicero, and Jimmy made me look like $1 million. He is a consummate professional, and it was for the heavyweight title. Since I guess Axel Rotten vacated the title, I don't know what happened. They couldn't book him. I don't know what happened at the time. But it was me against Jimmy Cicero for the Allied Powers Wrestling Federation heavyweight title. And first it was a steel cage. I mean, Jimmy had me look so phenomenal. He bumped, did everything. It was something else. I remember having him in a torture rack and doing the shoulder tackles, and everything was big. And Jimmy, just a consummate professional, one of the best guys that I ever got into the ring with, worked against, just phenomenal. I was wrestling Jimmy. I believe I had him in the torture rack. I turned him around, and he swung, and he hit the referee. The referee went down, and then the Sheikh Abdul Hassan come in. It was 2-on-1. they had me up, and I think the Sheik took a flag, and I ducked, and it hit Cicero, and then Julio Sanchez come in and cleaned house, and I hit Cicero, and for the 1, 2, 3, I pinned him, and that was my first ever title. It was awesome. Top of the turnbuckle, waving. There was a lot of people there. There was a lot of brew brewers in the house that night. You know, it was something. I never thought in my wildest dreams I'd ever win a title of anything, because, you know, the first title means something. That it did mean something to me. After that, the titles didn't mean much, which I didn't know a lot into the business, but once I know more of the business, it wasn't about having a title. It was about putting the seats, the fans in the seats. So, I took the title back to the Rose Inn, and, Lash let me do that, and I took it to the bar, and I drank, and, people took pictures, you know what I mean, and they got to wear they got to touch the belt, wear the belt, so it was pretty cool. I thought, it was, going back to the place I worked and, hanging out and having a cold beer and the belt over your shoulder. But don't get me wrong, though. I mean, people, when I got in the wrestling business working in a bar, everybody wanted to try people. They wanted to try me and stuff. And, I like, come on. People would say this and that, and I'm like, just let it go. I'm just doing something I want to do. I don't knock people for doing their shit. Don't knock me for doing mine, But then everybody would want to try you. And I'm like, oh my God, just let me serve drinks and get your food out to you. I don't know. People are just crazy. I just don't know. If they wanted to do it bad enough, go train and jump in a ring and do it, and do it if they wanted to do it. But yeah, I mean, that was my my introduction on how I got into, why I liked wrestling and how I got started, and this is probably my first couple years in the business, and then I finally started, my home federation was the Allied Powers Wrestling Federation, and there are going to be many stories of the Allied Powers Wrestling shows, stuff that happened, good, bad, tragic stuff, and you just, it hasn't been told. And, I just want to share those in a good memory and stuff like that, and just, give you guys an insight of stuff I like and what makes me tick and stuff like that. So, I hope you guys enjoyed my first podcast. I hope I was entertaining enough for you. I kept it's flowing as smoothly as I possibly can tell. I didn't go crazy. I didn't say the F word too much. I just want to give something. I just want to do this and enjoy doing this, and I want to give it back. And if you guys have any questions, hit me up at badbubba77@gmail.com. If you have questions for me, I'll answer them on my podcast. I'm hooking up with Idiot Radio. They're going to be doing the show. It's going to be on there. People can download it and do whatever. This ain't small pond here, ladies and gentlemen. This is something that I'm proud of, that they contacted me and wanted to do, and I'm going to give them some good shows, and I'm going to be entertaining that I know I can be. And with you supporting me and me giving it my all, this podcast can only go up from here. So I hope this podcast was entertaining for you guys. I hope you got some insight on how I got into the business. It was a nice little story, but there's also a lot more chapters to this story that I'm going to present to you guys out there in podcast land. And I just want to say thank you to Todd DeFazio of Idiot Radio for giving me an opportunity to put me on a podcast. And this is the first show of the Triple B Experience, and it won't be the last show. So I just want to say, if you guys have any more suggestions, you guys want me to talk about some other topics, like I said, drop me a line at badbubba77@gmail.com. I'll answer your questions. I will keep doing Facebook Live posts. I will be promoting this podcast all over the place, because the more I promote it, the more it gets out, the more people want to listen to it, and the more successful it will be. So I want to appreciate the time that you guys spent listening to me, and get ready for episode 2, because it'll be coming pretty soon. And I'm going to let this stuff flow like water, and I'm going to churn, and I'm going to churn this out like butter. And I'm going to make them as entertaining as I possibly can. So I want to thank you guys for listening. You guys have a great day and a better tomorrow. This is Bad Bubba Brewer, and this is the Triple B Experience.